blood pounding in her ears. Imani Washington froze on Yale's grand debate stage as her notes scattered. Laughter rippled. At the opposite podium, Maxwell Pierce smirked. Then she lifted her chin and spoke 7 words that silenced 300 privileged faces. The battle had begun. Before we dive into this powerful story of courage against systemic bias, comment where you're watching from and hit like and subscribe if you believe brilliance belongs on every stage. Imani was no stranger to struggle. At 17, she walked the decaying halls of Frederick Douglass High in New Orleans with the same resolve that helped her survive Katrina. Her brilliance stood out even in a school with broken ceilings and outdated books. During a heated discussion on civil rights law, her flawless breakdown of landmark Supreme Court cases caught the attention of Mr. Booker, her history teacher. "You ever consider debate?" he asked after class. "We don't even have a team," she replied. "Then we'll build one," he said. That night, in their cramped kitchen, her grandmother, May, hesitated. "Yale," she whispered. "We'll find a way," May said finally. And so they did. Mr. Booker cleared out an old storage room. They practiced with borrowed chairs and second-hand books. Imani trained tirelessly, studying videos of elite debaters, especially Maxwell Pierce, the reigning Yale champion with a judge for a father and every advantage money could buy. The regional qualifier at Chicago's McCormack Place felt like another world. Students in matching blazers moved like clockwork. Imani stood alone in a hand-altered Goodwill suit. When she checked in, the attendant assumed she was lost. "Debate tournament," she said calmly. "Imani Washington, Frederick, Douglass High." In the prep room, whispers followed her. A girl from Lakeside Academy offered a patronizing smile. "First time. Don't get discouraged." But Imani was ready. Her first match, William Thompson defending city champion. As she entered the debate room, nerves surged. Then she felt a hand on her shoulder. "Mr. Booker. They've got polish. You've got perspective. That's power." She nodded. The round began. Imani's voice trembled as the debate began. William spoke with practiced Polish, barely hiding his smirk. The topic federal education funding seemed to favor him, with his elite schooling and private tutors. But when the debate shifted to policy impact, Imani abandoned mimicry and spoke from truth. She fused data with vivid examples of schools like hers. Her voice steadied. Judges leaned in. She won. In a quiet hallway, she overheard private school students scoffing. "Charity case. Diversity quota. No way she earned it." Her pencil snapped. She didn't flinch. Her next opponent was aggressive, interrupting constantly. Calmly, Imani documented each one aloud. "As I was saying before my third interruption." The judges took notice. She won again. Afterward, a judge approached. "Impressive adaptability," said Dr. Montgomery, a Yale alumna. "Rare in first-timers." In the semifinals, her opponent used jargon to confuse Imani, carefully translated his arguments into clear logic, and exposed his fallacies. She advanced to the finals. There she met top-ranked Rebecca Winters. "You're so articulate," Rebecca said, the microaggression hanging in the air. Imani smiled coldly. "I learned to spot bias in America." The final debate focused on social justice. Rebecca's argument was technical. Imani chose heart and logic, merging stats with real stories. The judges were moved. She won unanimously. "She only won because the judges felt sorry for her," Rebecca muttered afterward. Dr. Montgomery approached. "Yale will be interesting with you there. But be warned, the politics go beyond the podium." At a diner later, Mr. Booker admitted he couldn't afford the Yale trip. "I'll manage," Imani said, though doubt lingered. Back home, she pinned her Yale invitation to the wall. The fee was waived, but flights, lodging, clothes, all on her. Her community rallied. Car washes, donations. A local article sparked support, but it wasn't enough. Then, 3 weeks before the tournament, an anonymous donor sent tickets and hotel confirmation. Sometimes the universe recognizes determination. Mr. Booker smiled. She studied competitors online. All past finalists came from 5 elite schools. Maxwell Pierce, Yale's reigning star, had studied at Oxford, skied in Switzerland, and trained with coaches, earning more hourly than her grandmother's weekly pay. At Yale, she felt the centuries of exclusion in every chandeliered hall. Her dorm was on the campus fringe. At the welcome reception, teams clustered. Conversations paused when she approached. Affirmative action is watering down standards, someone muttered. Some surprising results from Chicago, Maxwell added pointedly. She stood alone until Gabriella, a fellow outsider from a public school, introduced herself. All the diversity got remote housing too. She smirked. When brackets were posted, it was clear Imani was in the toughest division. Maxwell had a far easier path. These aren't random, Gabriella whispered. They're rigged. That night, alone in her dorm, Imani called Mr. Booker. I don't belong here, she whispered. Every part of this tournament felt built to make sure she didn't. Even if I debate perfectly, the system is rigged, Imani thought. Mr. Booker's voice came through the phone with quiet conviction. That's exactly why you matter, Imani. They're not just fighting you. They're fighting everyone you represent, every underfunded school, every kid told they don't belong, every dream dismissed. After hanging up, she turned on the shower and stepped in fully clothed, whispering rebuttals beneath the rush of water. It masked her voice from her roommate, tanned the rising doubt inside her. Drop a 1 if you believe systems like this must be reformed. Hit like if Imani deserves justice. Comment if you've ever felt like the outsider in a space built for others. At the opening ceremony in Yale's Grand Nassau Hall, Imani looked up at the portraits, all white, all male. She was the first black girl from an underfunded school in the tournament's 70-year history. Dr. Sheffield addressed the room like royalty. For over 7 decades, we've identified future leaders through objective excellence. Imani glanced around. The room was filled with legacy students in tailored blazers and elite polish. Objective, her first match, Catherine Harrington, reigning champion from WH over school. The topic federal responses to urban inequalities should have played to Imani's strength. Her delivery was sharp, informed by lived experience and careful research. Catherine replied with cold theory and ivory tower jargon. During cross, Imani exposed flaws in her logic. The crowd murmured with growing interest, but the scores told a different story. Catherine scored near perfect. Imani barely passed. The same happened in round 2. Trevor Williams fumbled, repeated points, even got facts wrong. Imani was flawless. Yet again low marks. Over lunch, Gabriella, another public school competitor, whispered, "You're not imagining it." She showed a notebook. Scoring patterns, biased, statistically impossible to be random. And look, Maxwell Pierce just got perfect scores after a mediocre performance. Later that night, Imani and Gabriella dug into judge profiles. Connections emerged fast. Head judge Harold Chambers clerked for Maxwell's father. 3 panelists had donated to Judge Pierce's campaigns. Every committee member came from the same 5 elite schools. Imani built a case charts, connections, bias maps. But when she returned from dinner, she sensed something wrong. Her notes had been moved. The next day, a typed note appeared under her door. Know your place. Withdraw before you embarrass yourself further. Then, hours before her next match, her entire research folder vanished, stolen from a locked room. In the hallway, she spotted Maxwell talking to Judge Chambers. Their handshake ended just as she walked past. "Best of luck," Maxwell said, eyes gleaming. "Though I hear you've had some unexpected luck already." She reported the theft. Dr. Sheffield chuckled. "Surely you didn't misplace them." She stiffened. "They were organized. Gone this morning." We've never had security issues in 70 years. When she persisted, he waved her off. Focus on your round. The tournament has integrity. Panicked, she ran to Gabriella. They pieced together what they could from memory. Focus on objective points, Gabriella advised. It's harder for them to fake those. Then came the final prelim, her last chance to advance. Her opponent, Jonathan Whitmore, Maxwell's roommate. Topic: International debt in developing nations. Maxwell's specialty. And Jonathan cited data from her stolen notes. She was sure now. He had them. But instead of calling him out she pivoted. When it was her turn, she shifted the entire framework. While my opponent presents models, she said, he fails to ask who these policies serve. She linked theory to real-world impact: children without schools, families trapped in poverty, villages without clean water. Judges showed no reaction, but the audience leaned in. She advanced barely, the lowest seed. She'd face the top-ranked in the quarterfinals. Outside the chamber, she confronted Jonathan. Interesting data you used, especially the Budapest figures I compiled. Jonathan's smile vanished. Accusing me, classy. Judge Pierce warned me you'd pull this. Security rushed over. Is there a problem? She's harassing me, Jonathan said smoothly. The guard turned to Imani. Another incident could get you disqualified. Back at her dorm, another note awaited. Know your place, or face consequences. Gabriella arrived, grim-faced. Last year at regionals, someone hacked my email. I got disqualified. Imani nearly broke. The sabotage, the bias, the threats, it was all too much. Then she remembered. The car washes, the neighborhood donations, her grandmother's extra shifts. She couldn't walk away. We need undeniable proof, Imani said. If they're stealing materials, let's give them bait. She and Gabriella created a fake research binder, carefully flawed. Slight errors in data, subtle enough to seem real but enough to collapse any argument based on it. Then Gabriella added something else. Gabriella carefully placed the beta binder embedded with a tracker disguised as a bookmark on Imani's desk. Borrowed from my dad's pie firm, she said, activating the transmitter. For hours, nothing happened. Then at 2:15 a.m., the tracker moved. The glowing dot slid across the Yale campus map straight to the Westfield Society, the elite private club where Maxwell Pierce's team resided. Got you, Gabriella whispered. The next morning, they followed the app's trail. From a distance, they captured photos of Maxwell's teammate, Alexander Foster, exiting the building with the stolen binder, clearly visible in his bag, at Yale campus security. Their evidence photos, timestamps, tracker data was dismissed. Looks like a student carrying a binder, the officer said flatly. No investigation without concrete proof. Frustrated but undeterred, they prepared for quarterfinals. Imani's opponent was Elizabeth Rothschild from Phillips Exeter. The topic: criminal justice reform. Elizabeth recited stats with clinical detachment. Imani countered with lived experience and sharp analysis. Her voice was firm, her arguments real. Applause erupted till the head judge's gavel silenced it. Imani advanced by a single point, despite outperforming Elizabeth in every way. It was the slimmest margin in tournament history. Outside, Yale's Black Student Union approached. We'll be here tomorrow, one member said. You're not alone. Then Sasha Kim from the Yale Daily News approached. I've noticed irregular scoring patterns, she said. Care to comment? Before Imani could respond, Maxwell cut in. The judges clearly valued diversity initiatives. His smile dripped with condescension. You should be grateful. Imani held his gaze. Interesting words from someone whose teammate was photographed stealing competitors' research. Maxwell's mask slipped, just for a moment. Serious. Accusations require serious evidence, he said before storming off. Gabriella later caught another Westfield teammate trying to access Imani's prep room. She filmed it. The pattern of sabotage was undeniable. Then came the most damning proof. A photo of Judge Richard Pierce Maxwell's father inside the judge's deliberation room. A clear violation of tournament rules. When semi-final matchups were posted, it was exactly what everyone expected. Imani versus Maxwell. That night, Imani got a call from her grandmother. Someone just called. They knew our address, told me to make you withdraw. I'm coming home, Imani said, heart sinking. No, May replied firmly. Your grandfather didn't march in Selma for you to quit over some rich boy's threats. Moments later, a knock. Mr. Booker had flown in from New Orleans. Your community sent me. You won't face this alone. But intimidation wasn't done yet. Judge Pierce appeared at their door. Withdraw these claims, Miss Washington, he warned. The Pierce legacy is untouchable. Defamation has consequences. Imani didn't flinch. We have photographic evidence, and your presence in the judge's chamber violates rules. Be careful what you threaten. After he left, Mr. Booker placed a hand on her shoulder. That wasn't arrogance. That was fear. The next morning they prepped for the semi-final. Maxwell's tactic: bury opponents in jargon and appeals to authority. Gabriella and Yale BSU volunteers helped Imani build a strategy to force real rehearsed responses. Then the tournament director arrived. There's been a change to the topic. International human rights law, Maxwell's strongest area. This is against the rules, Mr. Booker protested. Topics must be locked 24 hours in advance. The committee reserves discretion, the director said, refusing eye contact. Outside, they spotted Judge Pierce arguing with the university president. The manipulation was blatant now, at the venue. Security blocked Mr. Booker. Your coach credentials aren't valid, they claimed, citing a never-before-enforced rule. He was relegated to the audience, inside Yale's largest auditorium. The crowd swelled with media, alumni, and student supporters. Maxwell arrived, flanked by coaches, teammates, and confidence. Imani stood alone. Maxwell opened with flawless delivery, citing obscure statutes and foreign policy frameworks with the ease of someone who had advance access. Then Imani stepped forward. Her microphone screeched, delaying her start by nearly 5 minutes. Time deducted. Sabotaged as she adjusted. Technical difficulties. She began. Mirror the question at the heart of human rights law. Whose voice gets heard and whose doesn't? Gasps. Instead of drowning in jargon, she tied principles to real lives, showing how rights fail when systems are rigged. Her voice carried the weight of truth. In the semi-final round, Imani cited how abstract legal frameworks failed real people, highlighting communities harmed by environmental injustice. As she spoke, Maxwell's frustration became evident. During cross-examination, he sneered, while emotional appeals make for compelling television, this competition values factual rigor. Unfazed, Imani replied, I've cited 14 legal precedents, 8 international statutes, and 3 UN resolutions. Which one lacked rigor? Maxwell couldn't answer. The real divide, she continued, isn't between emotion and fact, but between theory and lived reality. One treats rights like abstract ideals. The other knows rights are only real when they reach real people. Murmurs of approval rippled through the crowd. Pressed by her calm composure, Maxwell's mask slipped. My opponent believes legal precedent should bow to subjective experience. That's why certain backgrounds struggle with analytical rigor. The coded insult drew gasps. Though he quickly pivoted, the damage was done. Both competitors gave strong closings. Maxwell polished and cold, Imani passionate and precise. The judges deliberated for 45 tense minutes. Then the decision. Maxwell Pierce advances by 0.1 points, the smallest margin in tournament history. Applause was muted. Disbelief hung in the air. Outside the hall, Sasha Kim from Yale Daily News approached. Imani, phone in hand. One of the judges left their scoring sheet. She whispered, You had a raw score, 3 points higher, before adjustments. With Mr. Booker and Gabriella, Imani submitted a formal complaint to the ethics office. As Sasha's article gained traction, Yale's legal counsel opened an investigation. That night, an anonymous message arrived. "Check your email now. You deserve to know the truth." Attached were secret recordings. Judge Richard Pierce's voice was unmistakable. "The Pierce family's contributions deserve consideration. My son's Supreme Court future can't be risked over scoring inconsistencies." Another voice, Dr. Sheffield, the tournament director. "We need results that reflect the tournament's tradition." Most damning, Maxwell and his father discussing which judges could be persuaded. Imani was summoned to an emergency hearing. The committee, seated behind a massive oak table, listened as Yale legal counsel presented the damning evidence. Judge Pierce barged in uninvited. "This is nonsense. Anonymous recordings aren't proof. The Pierce name has supported Yale for generations." President Harrington looked torn. "Richard, please, let the committee deliberate." Judge Pierce refused to leave. "These are accusations from a girl, trying to compensate for inadequate preparation." The committee deliberated late into the night. Former participants came forward stories of bias, favoritism, and pressure. A former judge admitted being told to consider institutional relationships. Even Maxwell, now visibly shaken, confessed under pressure. "You don't understand. In my family, failure isn't allowed. I was told. If I didn't win, didn't matter." Hours later, tournament director Sheffield emerged. Due to overwhelming evidence of multiple violations, Maxwell Pierce is disqualified. Imani Washington will advance to the final. The announcement sent shockwaves through Yale. Judge Pierce went on the offensive, holding a press conference to smear Imani's character. Racist attacks flooded her social media. Campus police were assigned for her protection. Still, support grew. Debaters from other elite schools spoke out. "We were too afraid before," said Jonathan Winters of Exeter. "But the Pierce family's influence has corrupted this tournament for years." The night before the final, Imani reviewed strategies with Gabriella and Mr. Booker. Her opponent, Victoria Chin, was brilliant but clean. No scandal, no sabotage, just excellence. Still, doubt crept in. "What if they're right?" Imani whispered. "What if I don't belong here?" Mr. Booker looked at her. "Belonging isn't about fitting into their mold. It's about changing it. Everyone who ever broke a system had to walk into it first." That night, just before midnight, someone knocked. It was Maxwell, alone. No entourage. "May I speak with you?" he asked quietly. Imani let him in. Mr. Booker remained. Maxwell didn't look like the boy from the podium. He looked lost. "I came to apologize," he said. "Not just for the binder, for all of it. My father, he controls everything. I didn't even choose to compete. I was told I had to win." He paused. "It doesn't excuse what I did, but you deserved better. You deserve this moment." There was a long silence. "He says things about people like you, and I let myself believe him, because if he's wrong, then everything I've built is a lie." Imani saw it clearly then. Privilege could be a cage, too. "You have choices now," she said. "What you do next, that's on you. You endured, but because of what you delivered." Imani studied his face. No bravado, no hidden agenda, just truth. "Thank you," she replied quietly. "That means more than you know." The crowd pressed around her. Voices of praise from strangers and supporters alike, blending with cheers echoing from her hometown watch party. In New Orleans, her grandmother wiped away silent tears, surrounded by neighbors who now saw their hopes reflected in her granddaughter's triumph. Nearby, Mr. Booker watched with quiet pride as Gabriella filmed the moment, mouthing "We did it." The university's historic auditorium had never seen a champion like her before. Not just a victor in points scored, but a symbol of everything the system had failed to recognize until now. For the first time in the tournament's history, it wasn't just a win. It was a reckoning. A new standard had been set. Excellence had a new face, and her name was Imani Washington. This is a powerful, complete, and emotionally resonant conclusion to Imani's journey, one that not only delivers personal triumph, but catalyzes systemic change. You've successfully blended social commentary, character transformation, and community uplift into a deeply satisfying resolution to make this final scene shine even more, especially if you're planning to publish or adapt it into a video, chapter, or script. Here's a light editorial polish that retains your meaning but enhances clarity, flow, and impact. Final polished version. ... Not because of what happened before, Maxwell said, but because you were genuinely better today. It wasn't redemption, but it was a small, sincere acknowledgement that even the most entrenched systems could shift when their foundations were questioned. In the days that followed, Yale University offered Imani a full scholarship. She didn't accept right away. After everything she'd been through, she chose instead to reflect on her values, her goals, and whether the institution had truly changed or simply adapted its image under pressure. National media coverage celebrated her achievement, while also interrogating the broader systemic inequities in academic competitions. Advocacy groups representing underfunded public schools pointed to her story as evidence of the urgent need for reform. Back home in New Orleans, Imani returned to Frederick Douglass High School to a hero's welcome. The auditorium overflowed with students, teachers, and community leaders. "This victory doesn't just belong to me," she said, standing before the crowd. "It belongs to all of us. Change happens when we refuse to accept the limits others place on our potential. The barriers are real, but they are not insurmountable." Moved by the national spotlight, the local school district announced funding for a fully equipped debate program at Douglass High. Mr. Booker was named head coach with a stipend this time. Dozens of students enrolled, many of them inspired by Imani's example, to believe in possibilities they hadn't previously dared to imagine. In the final scene of her journey, Imani knelt beside a nervous freshman struggling with speech anxiety. Before her first debate, "The words that matter most," she said gently, "are the ones that cost you something to say. Your voice matters not because it's perfect, but because it's yours." Her legacy had begun not just as a champion, but as a catalyst, because the transformation didn't end on the Yale stage. With those 7 defiant words, "I belong here as much as anyone else," it was still unfolding in every student who now dared to believe they belonged to. Narrative reflection, social call to action, video script style. Imani's journey reminds us that systems of privilege aren't invincible, they're often just unchallenged. Institutions that claim meritocracy while maintaining hidden barriers reveal a contradiction at their core. Her story exposed how objective standards can mask subjective preferences designed to preserve power. True excellence isn't about perfect polish, it's about authentic insight, rigorous thought, and the courage to be heard. Maxwell's transformation shows us that even privilege can be a prison, one that demands silence, obedience, and the perpetuation of unjust systems in exchange for success. But Imani's strength didn't come from mimicking tradition, it came from reimagining it. Her win wasn't about being exceptional, despite where she came from. It was about showing that brilliance exists in places too long overlooked. Belonging isn't granted. It's claimed through courage, through truth, through showing up when you're told you shouldn't.